Hey friends, thanks so much for tuning in. We very much appreciate it. And thanks so much for your support lately as we've been covering Pizzagate and so much else. This is Sean from SGT Report, and today we're going to be discussing diversifying your income in this challenging environment, and we're going to discuss how and when the dollar will collapse with Jerry Robinson from followthemoney.com. Jerry, thanks for joining us.
It's great to be here, Sean. Thank you.
Oh, your audio sounds terrific. That's a beautiful microphone.
Thank you. Yeah, great to be here.
Hey, first I just want to discuss a personal matter, and it's really about donations. How do we support the alternative news media now that the alternative news media is so clearly under attack? Mike Adams at naturalnews.com has had basically Google delist his site, Natural News. So now we have Google literally backing up their threat. Back in November 2016, the Google CEO said, there's no room for fake news, and they're going to be the arbiters, Jerry, of what fake news is, and evidently they think Natural News is fake news. Mike Adams does terrific reporting, and if you want to learn alternative viewpoints on things like vaccines, things like GMO foods, things like radiation perhaps coming from Fukushima and how that might be affecting you and the Pacific Ocean, Natural News was a great source, and now Google's saying, no, we're just not going to get traffic there. So before I get into this personal matter of how you can support us at SGT Report, what are your thoughts on anything I've just said there? It's pretty disgusting, isn't it?
Well, I think it's to be expected. I don't think we should expect to have mainstream support for these more, obscure viewpoints. Obscure, not meaning wrong, but just meaning that they don't fit into the big wheelhouse of the mainstream media's idea of what's true. And that's okay. I think that it's important, though, for individuals to be constantly supporting those networks that they feel are providing them with good information. I know it's very difficult today because we live in a time where much of the mainstream news doesn't seem to have a grasp on the truth. And oftentimes you do find truth on random blogs, who have no kind of corporate backing. And that's, of course, where you would typically find the truth. I mean, think about even in the Bible, you have John the Baptist. He's out in the wilderness, he's not sitting in the middle of the city. And so you often have truth coming from the wilderness, so to speak. It's not going to be right there in the middle of Main Street.
Yeah, well, the mainstream media, and Google specifically, are now trying to obstruct truth. Literally, they are just the gatekeepers of the official government narratives. So, to me, when we think about fascism and defining fascism, as Mussolini defined it, it was the marriage of corporations with government. Isn't that exactly what we're seeing here out of Google? They're acting in a fascist manner to try to shut down alternative viewpoints. It's literally Big Brother clamping down on free speech.
Yeah, but it's been going on for a long time. I mean, this is just a constant dribble that we've been seeing for a very long time.
Well, now it's a fire hose, Jerry.
Yeah, but I think also that I would actually take issue with some of the things that are called fake news and also the things that are often called real news. I might not be the best person to ask on that front because I see a lot of propaganda on both the right and the left side, although I'm pretty apolitical when it comes to that. But I do agree with you that there is a tremendous war right now for the minds of men. It's as old as history is itself.
Yeah. All right. Well, and we'll talk about some of the propaganda as it relates to the dollar. Okay. We're going to talk about how and when the dollar collapses. But first, I just want to mention my friend Stephen Penny brought to my attention this fantastic company that I had now signed up for. And here's how this works. By the way, Jerry, I used to work for Target for 10 years in the headquarters in the marketing department. And Target is this Fortune 50 multi-billion-dollar a year company. Obviously, Walmart's one of the biggest companies in the world, and our listeners go to those companies to buy products on a weekly basis. And this company that I signed up for provides better quality products, proprietary products, and if you sign up for this thing, you can redirect some of those dollars away from those corporate big box New World Order stores, for lack of a better word, to an honorable company, and then because you've signed up and you're signing up people below you, and by the way, guys, this isn't Amway, you get a small commission every time somebody buys something. So it's a great way to support, in this case, alternative media like myself. I've never had a donate button. I've never asked a reader or a viewer for 1 red cent. But this is a cool thing. And now that I've signed up for this company, guys, they send you a magazine every month. And there's a couple featured in this particular edition of the magazine who made $461,000 last month. They signed up for this thing 20 years ago. Again, it's not Amway. It's much cooler company than that, in my opinion. Stephen is going to be holding a webinar this Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern, and anybody interested in learning more can email him at trendtrader1@startmail.com. Jerry, I know that you're very, very smart about diversifying income and building alternate streams of income. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? What are some of the ways that our listeners can do that aside from what I've just mentioned?
Well, I think it's very important for people to be, developing multiple streams of income. It's something we've talked about for a long time. I wrote a book called Bankruptcy of Our Nation that came out in 2009. So it was right at, that moment, that 2008, that crescendo moment where people were really waking up to what was going on. And one of the primary solutions that we put in the book was, in addition to changing your mindset, in addition to changing your mindset from being simply a consumer, but changing it to being a producer, to think differently. We also talked about the need to have financial wisdom when it comes to your income streams. The majority of people today rely upon, actually the average American family relies upon just 3 income streams. The husband has a income, the wife typically works as well, and they typically have a CD that throws off some interest or something like that, maybe dividends from stocks or whatever, but usually just 3 income streams. What the average American retiree, by the time an average person gets to retirement, that individual typically has 2 income streams, maybe a government check, maybe like a Social Security, and maybe a pension if they're lucky, or a 401k distribution or some sort of retirement plan. So the average person today is not prepared for any kind of situation that would cause them to lose just 1 income stream. This is why in these challenging and perilous times, we teach the importance of creating multiple streams of income. And that's one of the things that we've done even at our website, followthemoney.com, is we've created resources for people to help them learn how to create multiple streams of income. For example, we created our Income University. In that Income University, we have listed 22 different income streams that people can create both now and in retirement. We talk about many things, whether it's maximizing your Social Security check, maximizing your pension income, maximizing your IRA, getting dependable income from interest, which has been challenging in this low interest rate environment, getting a passive monthly income from the stock market, creating rental income from real estate, or how to create income from real estate without owning, without actually being a landlord, I would say. How to actually identify ways to make money outside of the stock market, maybe just with your own time, maybe leveraging the talents and abilities of other people, or maybe using affiliate marketing or direct marketing. I mean, there's so many different income streams. You could sell information. You can invent something and license it or patent it, or you can get royalties from a book. I mean, so there's so many different income streams that you can create. The problem is you don't learn about them in school. Nobody teaches you all of these different income streams. You're told, go get a college education, get a good job, and then you get your good job. You do what society tells you, and then when you lose your job, you're 1 paycheck away from disaster. So we teach the importance of creating multiple streams of income. That way, if you lose 1 stream of income, it's no big deal. So my wife and I have been building multiple streams of income for many years. We have many streams of income. And I don't say that to brag. I say that to say that it was a lot of hard work. I mean, it didn't just happen. We had to put our minds to it. We had to turn the television off at night. We had to stop thinking the way the world thinks. And we had to think differently. And when we did, we started getting success. So I would say,
can I say something about that?
Please,
I admire that a lot because, as I've said to others, and it has been said a million times, every journey begins with a single step. And so, like in the matter of this other opportunity I mentioned with Stephen Penny, like the couple that started 20 years ago, and they've got this gigantic income stream coming in today. Had they not started 20 years ago, they would have failed, right? We know if you don't start something, if you don't begin, if you don't take that first step, you're going to fail. Right? So the biggest indicator of potential success, Jerry, is taking that first step.
So true. You have to take that first step, and you have to make up your mind that you're not going to be settling for just one income stream. I think also for people, some people don't have a lot of money, but they have a lot of time. Other people have not a lot of time, but perhaps they have money that's just sitting around and they need to do something with it. Other people don't have any money and they don't have any time. And for those people, you really can't help those people. They have to find either money or time. You do need one of those two things. One of those two things has to be a part of the equation if you want to succeed. You must commit time or you must commit money if you want to succeed in this current economy. And I think for most people, time is all they have. So I think that it's important to think about how can I use that time wisely? What can I do? And I think like the things you're offering, make sense for that situation.
Yeah. Now, when we talk about the fragile economy, when we talk about the economy and the changes that I think are coming, and look, I've been reading your articles and listening to your interviews, and I want to quote you right here. You say the biggest crash is yet to come, and it will be accompanied by a collapsing U.S. dollar. Since Trump took office, things seem kind of rosy economically speaking. They certainly are painting a great picture with the Dow going, ever northward. But the crash is coming, Jerry, isn't it? Because the world no longer is granting us permission to print money. That privilege is coming to an end. So how and when does this U.S. dollar collapse, Jerry?
Well, I think it's important also to remember that, as you mentioned, Trump is causing some optimism around the economy right now. And I think that's much needed. But remember, optimism is coming from what? Is it coming from a report? Well, not necessarily. It's coming from expectations. What are the expectations? Well, the expectations are that President Trump and the administration are going to deregulate. They're going to slash regulations, which we're already starting to see, which is going to then, of course, boost corporate profits, which in turn boost stock prices, right? So investors are salivating over deregulation. They're also salivating over lower taxes. And we have seen that even the brand new Treasury Secretary Mnuchin has now announced that he wants to have tax cuts on the table by August of this year. So you have that all going for investors. So there's a general idea that the gloom and doom that we were living underneath may be beginning to lift, and now we're moving into this new environment where things might be better. The problem with this viewpoint is the fact that nothing has changed. In other words, the entitlement programs are the same. The national debt is still racing higher. When we take a look at the overall economy in general, we still see a lot of lagging in many key areas. And so while we do have some good news, we also have a larger backdrop that is very negative. So as we go forward, I think it's important for people to realize that we are based upon faith. Our economy is a faith-based economy. It's not rooted upon anything real. It's not rooted upon anything intrinsic. It's rooted upon something called paper. It's paper. It's absolute paper. And so we don't really have an economy that can quite really be measured in anything realistic. It much more has to do with optimism and faith. So when faith goes up, the situation in the economy goes up. And when faith goes down, the economy goes down. See, this is a terrible way to build your economy, but we did it that way. We detached ourselves from anything intrinsic by slashing or by getting rid of the gold standard, closing the gold window back in the 70s. And since that time, we have replaced it with a petrodollar system, which again is very precarious. And simply for those who are not familiar with the petrodollar system, it's just basically instead of backing oil or dollars with gold, you instead create and generate demand for your dollars by forcing oil consumers to use dollars to purchase all the oil around the world. There are very few spots today that don't require a dollar bill to buy a barrel of oil. There's a few places you can go to buy those barrels of oil, but they're very few and far between. And the reason why this is so important, and the reason why the average individual needs to understand this, is because this creates a false or a fake, or more appropriately, an artificial demand for the US dollar. People don't really need the US dollar except for the fact that they have to have it to buy oil. Now, many countries will hold US dollars because they perceive it to be stable. But this stability, again, is directly linked to this ongoing demand around the world. So we really are in a pretty big catch-22. And I do believe that over time, as we see, especially in the event of any kind of conflict or war between the West and Russia, or the West and China, whatever the case might be, or even more flames in the Middle East, we could see a breakdown of this petrodollar system. And the reason why that becomes such an important thing is that everything that we see today is, when we look at price levels, we expect them to go up. This is a very bizarre situation, Sean. This isn't the way things are supposed to be. You aren't supposed to expect a raise every year. Your house value is not supposed to go up every year. The stock market's not supposed to go up every single year. This is nonsense. But this is because we have created a system whereby things go up because we constantly keep putting money into the system. So in a stable system based on a gold standard, you don't have prices of everything constantly rising. But in our case, you constantly have price elevation, and over time, that simply becomes unsustainable. So we won't see the stock market continually to rise forever. Your house values won't always rise. Your 401ks won't always go up. You won't always get a raise. But in this current messed up, convoluted environment that we've created, those are the expectations of the economic actor. They expect things to go higher. But that's an unsustainable and unhistoric type of attitude.
Well, not only is it unsustainable, it's literally strangling what used to be a thriving middle class in this country. If you go back to the 50s, a family could live comfortably on one income. So now what we see is this inflation that you've just described really starting to spiral out of control, because I don't remember the last time, even when I worked at Target, I don't remember getting 10 and 20 and 30% raises. Right? But what's happening to the, take a look at what it costs to get a college degree. Those costs are up many, many, many more percentage points than the average person gets in raises each year. The same is true with healthcare. We see the home prices, the staples people need to maintain that middle class lifestyle are no longer attainable for most folks. Most folks are losing this battle to inflation because the salaries people get are not keeping up with inflation of the things we need. And that's why building a multiple stream of income is so important. But I really, really worry for people about what happens when the dollar dies, because as you and I both know, the banksters are throwing mountains of paper, gold, and silver at the market to suppress the prices of gold and silver, because gold and silver in physical form should be the canary in the coal mine that tells us just how dire the situation is. But because, as my friend Bick Swear has noted, just last year alone, the COMEX derivatives last year alone were up 41%. Mountains and mountains, billions and billions of ounces of paper, gold, and silver thrown at this market to suppress the prices. So what is the canary in the coal mine then that we should be looking at? I think it's Bitcoin. As we're having this conversation today, Jerry, Bitcoin is at $1,156 per Bitcoin because the banksters can't strangle it. So what's Bitcoin telling us? Bitcoin is saying, look, the dollar is in its last days. The nation states like China and Russia are bypassing the dollar to buy the oil that you described. They're not using the dollar to trade between themselves. They're bypassing the dollar. This whole system's falling apart, Jerry. And I don't think that is fear porn. I think that's hardcore fact that most Americans have no idea about.
Yeah, and I think that because the ideology that we've had today is growth for the sake of growth. And that's the ideology of a cancer cell, as Edward Abbey once put. Growth for the sake of growth is the ideology of a cancer cell. That's what we have today. Is that we constantly need more and more and more growth. But the problem is that we're in an economy that is constrained by finite resources. But we have all of these infinite wants. That's the basic story of economics. And so we really are in this place where we are staring into the abyss. We are going to see a massive, massive crash. I have no doubt about this. In fact, if you look at the volatility index, which is often called the fear index, we hit the lowest level we have been on the volatility index since 2007. So back in 2007, 10 years ago now, I can't believe it, I was storming across stages with my new book saying, my new book was coming out, I was still writing it, but I was saying, look, you're going to have to get out of the stock market right now. It's going to crash. And it's so obvious. Like you can see when these things begin to happen. If you go back to the 1929 crash, you can see it clearly on the chart. We're trend followers, so we pay very close attention to the charts. 1929, obvious crash before it happened. 1937, obvious crash. 1973, obvious crash. Go back and you just look and you can see. And where we are now is we are in a brand new all-time high on the U.S. stock market. What we've also seen, which is a little bit concerning, is we've seen the Trump administration take credit for the stock market. Now, whether he's due that credit or not is not the point. The point is that he is one of the first presidents that I've seen in my lifetime who has willingly taken credit for a rising stock market, which could certainly only hurt you. I mean, even President Clinton was urged by his advisors never to take credit for the stock market because when it goes down, you have to own it. And so Trump apparently has tremendous faith that he's going to continue seeing the stock market rise. Investors seem to agree. And so he's taking credit for the stock market. So if we see a pullback, Trump and his ego are somewhat invested in the rise of this stock market. So that can give us a little bit of hope, right, in the near term. The fact that his ego is attached to the stock market means that he will probably pull out every stop if it starts to crumble. I don't think Trump himself can stop it when it finally happens, but nevertheless, they'll continue to try to prevent a breakdown. When's that breakdown going to happen? When are we going to see this drop in faith in the U.S. dollar? When are we going to see finally the nation say enough? When are they going to stop buying the bonds and actually become net sellers in a ferocious way, not just in a blip of a way, but in a ferocious way? When is that going to happen? I don't know. Nobody has a crystal ball, and my crystal ball is broken, so I have no clue when that happens. But I do know that you can look at charts the way we have for many years, and you can begin to spot when things look fishy. And right now, we see a market that is just taking off. We've been riding this market. We've made very good money in this market, and we continue to play the market. In fact, for those listening who want to trade the market, I highly encourage you to go to our website, followthemoney.com. Every single weekend, we put out a weekend trend briefing. And in that briefing, we tell you all of the new uptrends that are forming. So, for example, last February, we got into gold, we got into silver, we got into Peruvian stocks, we got into steel producers, we got into copper miners, we got into copper. That was back in February. Just made a killing on that. And then we have been slowly getting out of some of those as they form new downtrends. So for people who are looking for trend analysis and they want to find new uptrends and downtrends and they want to make a little money with their 401k or their IRA, we have a great service for that. But I think the main thing is to remember that even if the market does crash, Sean, or of course we're saying that it will, but when it eventually does, you can make money from that, right? People like Jesse Livermore in the 1929 crash made gobs of money, right? There were people in the 2008 crash who just made gobs and gobs of money as the market crashes. So you can make money when the market is going up. You can make money when the market is going down. It's just when the market's going sideways that becomes frustrating.
Right. Well, I'm going to say just one little thing as to when this thing could happen. Of course, this isn't a prediction. It's a Rothschild prediction, so I guess that's the way I'll frame it up. I shared this with so many of my guests. The 1988 cover of The Economist magazine showed a phoenix rising from a burning pile of fiat, and around the phoenix's neck, Jerry, was a gold medallion with the year 2018. The cover of the magazine said, "Get ready for a world currency." That was nearly 30 years ago. 2018, we're less than a year away. Now, I don't know if the Rothschilds are going to have that prediction come true, but things are shaping up to potentially go there. It could happen in short order is what I'm trying to say. We could see the dominoes collapse very, very quickly, given derivatives, given all of these things we've talked about. We could see the dominoes collapse quickly, couldn't we?
We could. We certainly could. I think that would be merciful. I think it would be merciful if everything crashed suddenly. It usually doesn't happen that way, unfortunately. Typically what happens is you have a slow downward grind, kind of like what we experienced in 2008. So in 2008, sure, we had a couple of major sell-offs, but we didn't lose all of the amount of in the stock market in one day. I mean, it took quite a while to carve out that huge bottom that happened in March of 2009. Even in 1929, the big crash, yes, you had a couple of terrible days, but overall, it was a long, slow grind and took forever to get back to break even. See, when things go slow like that, they're even more painful. I expect it to be a slow, steady decline. Sure, we may have an event or a black swan that causes a immediate breakdown, but I don't believe you wake up ever one day and you find out that everything is worth zero, right? That's just not how things work. I mean, that's never been the way that things have worked. That's not how things will work because of the fact that man has to operate within an economy. So even in the cases where currencies have collapsed, Sean, they just change the color of the currency. They change the name of the currency. They put it back out. People are pretty predictable. They're pretty easily moldable. And so if you tell them there's a new currency and you put a new color on it, people can have faith in that. But when they lose the faith in the green currency, the US dollar, it'll be time for maybe a red currency or a blue currency, and we'll rename it. That's how these things work.
Yeah. Well, my fear, Jerry, is that for anybody who doesn't have, in my opinion, if you don't have physical precious metals, if you don't have some silver and gold in your own possession, maybe some Bitcoin, when that reset happens, you may find your standard of living being reduced many, many percentage points. And a lot of people are going to get hurt.
I think that owning precious metals, gold and silver, are absolutely vital for, I think, almost everyone. There's very few things that I would say everybody should do this because everybody has a different thing going on. But gold and silver are just money. I mean, when you look in the Old Testament, you see the word silver. It's the same word for money. It's the same exact word. They're interchangeable. So forever, silver and gold have been viewed as these monetary metals. So when you buy gold and silver, you're not investing. You're just getting money, right? You're trading your paper for things that are real. And so I view gold and silver that way. I have a foundation of gold and silver, a physical, like they say, you don't hold it, you don't own it. I hold it in my hand. I like physical gold. I like physical silver, but I will not put all my money into it. How come? Because the rules of the game can change. Sometimes guys will say, look, if gold and silver are so good and if the dollar is so bad, why don't I put all my money into gold and silver? And I always tell them that's one of the dumbest things you could ever do because the rules of the game can change. What if they slap a 85% distribution tax on gold and silver? Or what if they do this? Somebody says, well, I think real estate's the best, so I'm going to put all my money in real estate. Dumb idea. What if they change the rules of the game? Where are the rules of the game found? In the IRS tax code. They change the rules of the game on you and you put all your money in real estate, then you're going to get hosed. Somebody says, well, I'm going to put all my money in my 401k and IRA. What if they slap distribution taxes on those? People have to be nimble. They have to be spread out. So we encourage the importance of having multiple streams of income, having a diversified 6-month liquid savings program. People can learn about that on our website as well. And we talk about the need to have lots of different things in your investment portfolio. We talk about PACE, something we came up with an acronym, precious metals for P, A is for agriculture, C for commodities, E for energy. These things do really well in a time of inflation or falling dollar. You'll see these things do well. And one of the things we're encouraged about with commodities, and we're expecting to make quite a bit of money over the next couple of years as we put out these uptrends and downtrends, as we have seen that commodities have really bottomed out as of 2016. We were playing the commodities bull market through the 2000s, the first decade. But in 2011, we really ran into a ceiling. And then we began downtrends across the board on commodities. And 2011 was brutal. 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015. But then 2016, we finally had what appeared to be a bottom in commodities, and we began to crawl up. 2017 is looking the same. So we're really getting bullish now on this pace philosophy, and we track many different ETFs on how to play these along with new uptrends and downtrends. So we think there are ways, in other words, we think that there are tremendous problems ahead, but we think that people can empower themselves through financial wisdom. Not all is lost if you'll apply your brain power.
I like it. Well, we've hit on a theme here, diversification. That is definitely the theme of this interview. And I guess just to round out the conversation, guys, I would say as it pertains to supporting those that you love in the alternative media and supporting SGT Report, first of all, thank you very much. I really do appreciate everybody's support. Hit the like button, spread this information within your own sphere of influence. And also you can support SGT Report if you want to sign up for that opportunity. At least take the free webinar with Stephen Penny. TrendTrader1 at startmail.com is his email if you want to learn more. And Jerry, how can we support you and what you're doing over at Follow the Money? I have very, very supportive listeners and readers. What would you suggest?
I just think that I think the majority of people today just need more income. They need financial wisdom. That's really what we provide. We've been providing that since 2010. So people can come over and take a look at what we have. Just go to followthemoney.com. You can see our plans and pricing there. Of course, we have lots of free resources. Probably have over 1,000 different articles that are free that you can read through. But also we have lots and lots of podcasts we've done over the years. We've interviewed some great guys all along these same topics. And then we also have some, memberships. And for people who say, hey, I just want to get, some upgrades and I want to have these latest uptrends and downtrends. Well, you can get those for like $10 a month at our website. We're very, very reasonably priced. So if you're looking for some really good research and you want to try to make money in this market and not get hosed and know when the market is beginning to look really shaky, we'll alert you to that with our different services. So followthemoney.com. You'll also find out about our income university there, 22 different income streams you can create both now and in retirement.
All right, very good. Guys, the website was ftmdaily.com is how I came to know it. It's now followthemoney.com. Both URLs will get you there. And Jerry Robinson has been our guest. Jerry, thanks so much. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure, Sean. Thank you.
Thank you. And guys, thanks so much for tuning in. We very much appreciate your support. Thanks for visiting us at sgtreport.com, thephaser.com, and thelibertymill.com for real news 24/7. Yeah, and that's real news no matter what Google says. All right, thanks, you guys. Have a wonderful week ahead. Bye-bye.
We are at war. They've been fighting a war against us, and it's a covert war. It's the war waged by liars and traitors.
I think this year is going to, as I've said all along, I think it's going to be the year of the truth bomb.